Welcome to another edition of Lakers Fast Break Spotlight on the Lakerholics weekend. We are live here on many social media platforms for whatever that's worth, and these are modern times. We're going to talk about some fun stuff.
Earthquake in Hawaii, I think.
What's that?
Was that an earthquake in Hawaii?
No.
Sure here. Lakers beat Boston in what can only be described as probably the best game of the year, the most complete win of the season, in my opinion. You could probably find a game where they shot a better percentage or maybe had more of a certain stat or another, but like the way they controlled the game for 3 quarters, the first quarter was a little bit back and forth. From there on out, I really felt like, especially in the second half, we controlled the game in a way that you want to see. We controlled it with defense. We controlled it with measured offense. We didn't play outside of our abilities. Everybody did their job. Guys off the bench have a role. They played the role, and that's all you can really ask for from a bench guy, in my opinion. It's unless you have somebody like Sweet Lou, who you're going to come in and see, like, hope he lights up the scoreboard a little bit. We don't have that guy, so the bench has to do its job. And I thought they did a great time. They did really well doing their job in that game against Boston. First one here was Laker Tom. So Tom, what were your thoughts on that Boston Laker game the other night?
It's as every Laker fan knows, it's rare to have a game where you can relax. And this was a game where it had been a really great day. It was Thursday's cleaning day, and I got the house all cleaned and everything, and got in my hike and so forth, and I was all ready to go for the game. And my wife was sitting there praying that was going to be a good game, so that it would be a happy evening at home, and a great day would continue. And it was just really sweet. Following the announcements and public demands from AD and LeBron for a trade, this was the kind of game they really needed to back up those statements and to back up that whole feeling. And I just posted recently that I think everything is looking really sharp for the Lakers. Man, I hate to hope for anything with Rob Pelinka in charge, but he's at least looking at the right people right now. And I think that the Suns trade for their 31 pick for 3 picks has really set a value for the Lakers. And I think the Lakers are going to end up trading 1 pick, keeping 1, and trading the 2 seconds. They'll find a combination of a guard and a center where one of them is cheap from salary wise, so they don't have to match a whole lot of money, and the other one is cheap from draft capital. So it's Alonzo Miles type of situation, or some combination like that. They need a player that they can get for 2 picks, 2 second-round picks, and they need a player that they can get with one of their unprotected first-round picks. And I think that they're going to make a trade. And I think we'll be happy with who they pick. I'd be happy if they got a center. I'd be happy with Vucevic, Kessler, or Miles Turner. Any of those 3 would make me real happy. I'd be happy with Lonzo. After that, I guess I'd have to say I probably could be happy with Bruce Brown, and I'd love to see somebody like Marcus Smart. But at least we're not looking at players that don't matter, and we're not looking at Zach LaVine's and Trey Young's and blowing all of our depth and wasting picks on a guy who ain't going to be probably able to make up the difference of the guys that we gave up for it, So
sure, I don't know what any of that has to do with the Boston game, but we'll ask Michael what his thoughts on the Boston game were.
Well, my thoughts on the Boston game. I got to give out. First of all, I got to give a shout out to Max Christie, man.
Yeah,
it was a novel approach having him guard Porzingis, and it worked. They forced him into 2s, and he made it uncomfortable enough where he, Porzingis missed a few from, a few of his little, key shots. But man, you watched Max, he was putting every ounce of his soul and energy into keeping Porzingis out. I loved his effort, man. It was just, it was tremendous.
And he only picked up one foul. He only picked up one foul, and even that one I thought was kind of questionable. I was like,
yeah. So and what that did was it allowed LeBron and Rui size on Tatum and Brown.
And Brown, yeah.
Yeah, so it put, I'm curious now, this is a copycat league. I'm just going to be curious to see if anybody else down the road does that to the Celtics,
Well, I think it took the whole Celtics team by surprise. I thought that was probably one of Joe Mazzulla's worst coached games that I've ever. He did very little adjusting until the game was all but decided. He's usually a little bit more on the ball. I think that entire scheme threw their team off, and
well, it worked at first. That's why he kept doing it.
At first.
Yeah.
And like
here's the thing about Christie that I've noticed. He is really. I have not seen anybody who's able to pass the ball in a lob to the rim over Christie.
Yeah, he makes it tough.
When he fronts a guy, he's just not going to get beaten deep, man.
Yeah, that's a good point, Tom. That's a very good observation.
And he's stolen several passes when they tried to front him like that. And so you notice that he was not being fronted at all. There was no danger of passing the ball over. He was holding him straight up and making him take a tough shot every time.
Some of my favorite stats from the game come from the bench, where Dorian Finney-Smith didn't make a shot.
Plus 22.
He was plus 20. He was plus 20. Gabe Vincent was plus 22. The bench led the team in plus minus. Two players off the bench led the team in plus. I mean, Jackson Hayes had the only person who had more plus minus than the starters than Jackson Hayes was Anthony Davis. The bench did a great job on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah,
and they let the starters, whose job it is to score the most, do their job as well. They created the space for the start and the energy. When the bench does their job like this, it means that guys like LeBron, guys like AD, Reeves, Rui, they can put more in on the other end. And because we have so many one-dimensional guys, because our bench is not filled up with microwave scorers, and in fact, it's quite the opposite now with D'Lo gone. It's really the only microwave scorer we got is maybe Dalton Connect. We'll talk about Dalton Connect in a little while again.
Right. I thought Dalton. It was good to see Dalton. He had a 2 or 3.
Man.
Yeah, he really. If he's going to play, he's going to have to do that.
Yeah, there's no need to play him.
Shoot the ball.
There's no need to play him if he's not shooting the ball and if he's not shooting threes. If he's not making threes, he finishes well for a rookie who's supposed to be a shooter. He's got some nice rebounding that he gets done every once in a while. But overall, his impact isn't enough to justify. I'm becoming increasingly of the opinion that his production doesn't justify his role.
His production hasn't been up to par.
I mean, that's not to say that I don't believe in the future version of Dalton Connect. Mm-hmm. But as we get closer to the trade deadline, and as we get closer, as there are fewer games in the regular season.
Would you substitute him for a first round pick?
No, I think you have to keep a guy
let's say that a team that we were willing to give a first round pick, they'd said, we'll take Dalton instead. Would you do the deal?
No. And I'll tell you why. I think there's 3 good reasons why. One, he's a cost-controlled contract. He's on his rookie deal. It's very affordable for the Lakers. His potential impact justifies the risk, in my opinion. Like,
I agree.
I mean, unless you're getting back some version of Ray Allen, which I don't think we'll get.
Unless it's a deal that's the killer closer for the right guy that we want, Miles Turner, for example. If that was
I wouldn't trade Dalton. I would not trade Dalton. I would not trade Dalton for Miles Turner. I would trade Dalton.
The one thing that Dalton does that nobody else
has potential to offset his defensive deficiencies.
Exactly.
The one thing that Dalton does that nobody else on the Lakers can do. He's a motion 3-point shooter.
Yeah.
Everybody else we have are catch and shoots.
And still.
He can shoot on the move. And
there's no need to give up on Dalton Connect. I'm just saying for this season, specifically for this season, His
Yeah, I
role
wouldn't
may
either.
have to decrease in order for us to be a viable playoff team.
And
That's
we
it.
ain't trading Reeves at this point for anybody that's out there.
I'm
either.
not even sure we're trading anybody in the starting five other than Max Christie. for
Rui's
somebody.
gone already. Oh, man, you kidding?
We're not talking trades yet. I still want to give a couple more things about the Boston game that I really like. One was LeBron dunking with force and vibrancy. I know that he had a clear runway in all those times, and that was awesome. A lot of people want to put LeBron in a coffin. I would like for him to retire, and that it means we can move forward. And we're kind of in this weird hodgepodge, like, well, we got this guy, and we can't get rid of him because we want that Laker jersey on all these stats, and it's a marketing thing and a historical thing as much as it's a practical basketball thing. And that's just how we run things here in Los Angeles. It's just how it's done. It's just what they do. That's just what they do. So, but I thought that even though AD didn't have his best shooting, I mean, he shot 50%, 9 of 18, didn't hit a three. I thought his level of aggression throughout the game is what, and I do think we fell into a bit of a rut in terms of like, we got to get AD 25 shots. We got to get AD 25 shots. Like we were force feeding AD a little bit more than his basketball persona benefits from. I don't think he benefits as a player getting force fed like you would force feed Shaq, right? You force feed Shaq because there's just nobody who's going to stop the man.
Because he can't be stopped, man.
Right. He cannot be stopped. So it makes
I think you force feed AD until he misses. When he misses, then you force feed somebody else. You force feed LeBron.
I think again, he has a hard time against bigger centers than him. Yeah. He has a hard time against Porzingis.
He's not a center, man. He's a forward.
Listen, he can. I can't. That whole Serena sham was just the whole time. I was just like, really? You chose to do this now, Anthony Davis? This is maybe the worst PR move you've made as a Laker because it just comes off as whiny. I'm a 4.
No, I disagree. It comes off as telling the Lakers exactly what they need to do, which is go out and get a big man to play next to him.
Yeah, exactly. Rumors. Thank you, Daniel Berry, Sports Highlight. And
another thing about the Boston game that I really liked was 6 double-figure players. We tend to win games when we have a lot of guys in double figures because the ball's moving around, it's spreading out. Nobody had 38 and everybody else had 6. I mean, that was a huge thing. And the thing about Gabe, his defense has been pretty good, but his offense is finally starting to catch up.
It's almost 2 years later.
Well, you can't
sign him a 3-year contract. You have to admit, Jamie.
You can't. It's so easy to say, oh yeah, he missed a year basically.
Sure.
And then nobody comes back the next year after missing a year and lights it up. Usually, it takes time to get over an injury.
At least they come back.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you what I like.
It's slow. It's a slow process. It's not overnight.
Especially with our training staff. Add 3 months to whatever recovery time is published.
Really.
Minimum 3 months. Oh, he's got an ingrown toenail. Well, that's a 3-month minimum recovery time for the Lakers training staff, evidently. What I loved about the Boston game was that even though we lost the third quarter, it wasn't like we let Boston run away with the third quarter. We lost the third quarter 20-16. 16 points in a quarter is usually, that means this is going to be a close game, if not a loss. Every other quarter, we scored over 30, and Boston didn't score over 30 in any quarter in the entire game. And that is the recipe for Laker success going forward. You have to play within what your players are capable of. And for now, as this team is currently constructed in this moment, it's a defense-first team. You have to win with defense. You are not going to outshoot many teams anymore. Once you traded D'Angelo Russell for Dorian Finney-Smith, any ability to outscore the team with just like shoot, it kind of went away. I mean, I'm not saying we're not going to score a lot. Reeves is a capable scorer.
Well, I don't know. The single biggest reason why we won that game, I agree, is the defense. But the other side of it is we were in that game because we shot the hell out of the ball. We made 15 threes. We made 11 threes in the first half. I mean, that just blew up. Every time they tried to come back, they just got their bell rung.
Gabe and LeBron.
And I think that this. Well, let me finish. I think that this really is a message that we also need to make, everybody keeps looking at these defensive centers, but I think that Turner and Vucevic bring something that is really important, which is that ability, like Boston, to have 5 guys out there on the court who can stretch the floor.
I mean, listen, that would be nice. I think of the two, I don't know that the Pacers are shopping Miles Turner.
They're not.
Absolutely
not shopping him.
I think you'd have to throw 2 first-rounders at them, and the Lakers just aren't going to do that.
No, they're not going to take him for two. They're not going to do it for 2 first-rounders. They're 5th in the East.
They're 5th in the East. They have plenty of draft assets. Their only concern is how they get under the cap next summer. They'll deal with that.
Well, their only concern is they don't want to lose Miles Turner for nothing.
But they have no center. They have no center. If they're going to move him, they're going to have to get a quality center back. He
signed a midterm deal during the lean times with the winning and luck. He's fine with Indiana. He's not pining to go to some big name. This whole, I just don't see it happening. I understand
that $30 million a year.
I'm not
maybe
saying
that it can't be happening in Indiana.
Whatever.
But they're not going to trade him. They'll let him walk.
And if they let him walk for nothing,
because they have no replacement for him, Tom.
Yeah, they'll just draft.
Thomas Bryant is their backup.
They let him walk. It's the same thing. They don't have any replacement from that case either.
But at least they can make a run in the playoffs this year.
I don't know. We'll see. I think
they made it to the conference finals last year.
Yeah, I think that they had a slow start. I think that Miles Turner is their version of Kobe Bryant, which sounds weird. I'm not saying that he has the same on-court impact, but that
their version of who?
Of like a lifer, a Pacer lifer. He wants to be a part of Indiana. He's said it in multiple interviews. I mean, not that he gets interviewed a lot, but
he's
whenever
said he'd love to play next to Anthony Davis, and
sure he would do. That's him recruiting Anthony Davis to Indiana. He's recruiting Anthony Davis to Indiana. That's how I take that one. Come play in a cornfield, buddy. Come on over here.
Yep. We'll see.
I would like to see the Lakers. I think the one thing that the Boston win showed me is that for all that Jackson Hayes can do with his athleticism, he lacks the intelligence and the strength to make up for it. He can't use his athleticism to make up for his lack of bulk on defense. He can get plain old bullied down low by just about any center that outweighs him, which is many of the centers in the NBA. And so that's a problem. It's why AD is playing the 5. Christian Wood is evidently 14 million years away from coming back.
More than anything, have we?
No, it's like he dropped into the. I mean, we'll talk about Jared Vanderbilt. Let's move on to this. Is a great way. This is a great segue into the fact that this is going to be, unless we hear something in the, in the availability report in the next hour or so. Vando's coming back tonight. Welcome back.
His career with the Lakers is going to happen this week.
Say that again?
His 2025 career will be 6 games with the Lakers.
Okay,
a bunch of games, 39 games or 35 games with 35 games with another team.
Yeah, sure. I don't think that's going to happen.
They can't trade Vando. So
he has zero value.
Out of your trade stuff.
They can trade him.
He has negative trade value.
Sure, they can trade him.
The potential does exist.
What they can do is
he's matching salary, Michael, nothing more.
He has 3 years left on his contract after this year. He hasn't played in a year. Nobody wants
him in the next 6 games, man.
Yeah. Nobody. There was one article they're saying that if somebody wanted a second round guy and you wanted to include Vando, you'd have to give him a first. He's that bad as a trade asset.
As a trade asset. And that's not to say that he can't start dropping triple doubles and for 6 games as a Laker and suddenly, Vando. But then the Lakers are going to keep him because he's dropping triple doubles. So I think that there's 2 trading chips, in my opinion, and it's Gabe Vincent and Max Christie. And that's because I'm assuming we would bring in a guard.
Max Christie.
Yep. And I'm assuming we would bring in a guard and not a center. Despite AD whining to Sham Sharina.
After just congratulating Max on the great defensive job he did against the Celtics, you have him as one of your 2 top trades.
No, because the 2 of them aggregate into $20 million roughly in salary and tradable salary. With our cap space, we can bring in another couple of mil, and it'll be a 2-for-1 deal. Maybe somebody like Vukovic, if they really want to go big, it opens the door for moving either Vincent or Connect or Vando into the starting lineup, and going a little bit bigger with the starting 5, or even Dorian Finney-Smith and trying Rui Hachimura at the 2, which probably won't work. It is open. There's a log jam of defense first players.
The guy to try at the 2, if you want to have a defender, if you can't get a point of attack defender, the solution is to try Vando at the 2, because that's the one spot where he has a size advantage position.
He can keep up with 2s. He can keep up with about 90% of the 2s out there, I would say.
And you'll probably see that in rotation.
I mean, he's not. It really is. You can play what you can defend. He's not
I
4
agree
or
with
5.
that. I agree with that completely. Yeah. Anyway, point being, I expect for this to be Tom will be so surprised I'm going to say this, but I don't see much activity happening for the Lakers in the next week. I will say this: I would love so much for us to throw a second rounder at Detroit for Christian Wood and his salary cap, and just to open up the roster spot so that we have more flexibility to build something.
You can sign another minimum salary player. Yeah.
Well, Lonnie Walker's out there, man. Lonnie Walker's out there. I would even consider taking a flyer on Pat Bev. I would take a flyer on Patrick Beverly for the vet minimum.
Pat Beverly, okay.
He's still out there.
No,
Israel or
talk
Turkey.
about guys like Marcus Smart or DeJounte Murray.
You're not gonna. It's just not gonna happen. Like Marcus, isn't Marcus Smart?
Or Lonzo Ball. I take Alonzo Ball, man.
That's not gonna happen either.
It's not gonna happen either.
I don't know. There's a lot of talk about Lonzo to the Lakers.
From people
who's talking about it. None of the Laker beat writers are talking about
Los Angeles Lakers.
Buha's
got a guy in a garage in Modesto. He says Lonzo Ball's going to the Lakers. It's guaranteed.
I've heard Buha do it, and I've heard another guy, one other.
There's a lot of caveats in what Buha said about that, though. It's not like they're saying they're saying if he was saying if and if and if. He always says that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Dan Wolke is a better source.
The Lakers are traditionally one of the teams that really shy away from anybody with injury rumors. That's probably why they'll end up not going for Robert Williams. But there have been strong rumors associating the Lakers with Lonzo Ball.
Sure. I'm not going to say that there haven't been rumors. What I will say is I don't see the Lakers sending out any draft capital or players that can actually play for a guy who can't play in back-to-backs and who's on a 24 minutes restriction for the rest of the season. And that's even if he decides to play after the season and not just say, that was what I wanted to do. I've had enough. My knee actually is killing me, and I want to walk and play with my kids as an adult. Nobody knows what he's going to do after the season. He's going to be an unrestricted free agent. He's certainly not going to get a $20 million contract.
And I'm sure the Lakers aren't going to do anything without having talked to him and talking to his agent and so forth. And
why would I see this?
Everything I hear, they probably have done that. They probably have talked to him and talked to his agent.
Oh man, somebody wants to open up Pandora's box. Laker Sam, what move should the Lakers make? Oh no! Everybody, buckle up. Michael, if you want to go make yourself a fondue or something.
It's Lonzo and Robert Williams, obviously. The highest ceiling and the lowest floor that we possibly could have.
Tom, let's do this. Who's your number one point guard you would have the Lakers trade for? Lonzo
Ball.
Okay, number one shooting guard.
Shooting guard? We got a shooting guard.
You would not make a trade for an improvement at shooting guard at all.
Well, Bruce Brown.
Okay.
That's not an improvement.
I don't know if that's an improvement. Yeah, but whatever.
Well,
if you don't want offense,
Michael, it's Tom's list. It's Tom's list. I'm going to have
you're asking who I would trade if we were just going for a positional. I don't happen to think shooting guard is a strong priority right now.
I agree. I sense that. That's a small forward.
Small forward. We got a small forward. It's LeBron James.
You're standing with 2 and 3. You feel are solid right now. You feel we're solid enough at the 2, solid enough at the 3.
I think we're solid at 2, 3, and 4 in some combination. It's
Okay.
1 and 5 where we need to help.
Okay. So, and now who's your top center? Miles Turner?
Well, I'd have to say my centers, I'd probably rank it Miles Turner, Walker Kessler, and then Robert Williams, and then Vucevic.
Well, I have Vucevic second, but all right. So let's just focus on the 1 and 5. Let's just say this for argument's sake to make this a little more streamlined. We all say, unless there's some sort of magical trade that brings, Kawhi Leonard in at the 2, which it's just not going to happen. We're set at the 2, 3, and 4, right? We've got Dorian Finney-Smith, we got AD, we got LeBron, we got Koloko, we got a lot of guys that play 4-5. At a mediocre, the mediocrity went down a lot or went up a lot the lower we went on that list. And same with the 3. We got Rui, we got Vando, we got LeBron again, we got Connect. So, Michael, you're number 1 point guard. Should you make a move for a point guard, who would you target?
Well, and we could probably get him with 1 pick. I would probably go with Colin Sexton. He's got the least amount of money on his contract of all of the names out there. And he would be an ideal 6th man for years to come. The guys that you want to score off the bench, you got him. He shoots the 3.
He's not a great defender, but he has speed and athleticism.
But he's not going to start for us. He would be the guy. He would be that 6th man, that spark plug that you want off the. And that's what his role really is suited for. He really is suited more for a microwave scorer off the bench.
Then you're focusing on the playmaking rather than the point of attack defender.
Well, because you can hide a guy in your rotations. You stick him with Bando, for instance, at the 2. So that he would be
I'm thinking that Vando is probably going to be our point of guard solution, and we're just going to go get a center.
Yeah, so that would be my point guard.
Okay. I like that. Colin Sexton makes $18 million this year, $19 million next year.
Yeah, so yeah, that would be my point guard. I think he would be gettable at the deadline, probably a minute before midnight. He would be probably be gettable.
I'd give both picks for him and Kessler if you were going to do that.
Well, I would love that. I would love that. It's just
that's a way of justifying giving the second pick out.
Yeah, I would do that. I would do that trade. I absolutely agree with you. The only problem is Danny Ainge.
Yeah, I don't see Danny.
Won't do that trade.
You got to.
Because here's the thing with Kessler. They were shopping Kessler this summer a little bit and in the early parts of the season because he had a very disappointing second year.
Sure.
Now he is one of the rising center stars in the league. At 22 years old, he is now looking like a cornerstone of a rebuild. So that's why I don't have a lot of confidence in them even letting go for both.
I mean, he's just so affordable. He's a team option next season for $4.5 million. Like that's.
And if you're rebuilding, he's 22 years old. He's 22.
That's also one of the reasons why all of those reasons you're giving are one of the reasons why that's the kind of pick the Lakers need to spend those picks on.
Well, exactly. Yeah. And the other thing about
keeping him to try to match a superstar against the Thunder, forget it. You're not going to compete in those things.
Yeah. And Sexton is 25 or maybe 26. So
he's 25 or
25. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, and when the Lakers were talking about their parameters for giving up those picks, guys that are going to be playing for several years with the Lakers, both of those guys fit that parameter. So I would do it in a heartbeat. Now, the interesting thing about, I read it the other day, was Utah almost drafted Dalton.
He's 26.
They almost drafted him. So what would happen if we threw Dalton in? With
Dalton and one of the picks unprotected, and the 2027 pick unprotected.
I don't do that. I don't do that for a guy who's not as good as AD.
Who won't be in the next 2.
No, this would be a Sexton Kessler acquisition, not just Kessler.
I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, currently at 25, 26, 25 years old, Sexton is by far the superior, and he's only 2 years older than Dalton.
No, look, I understand all that. I just think that you really
Sexton's a
are.
38% 3-point shooter too, so
He's fine. Yeah, he's not
he's a volume 3-point shooter. He takes 5 shots a day.
I mean, he's a volume 3-point shooter on a bad team where he has the basketball all the time. That will not be his role on the Lakers. He
Well,
will not be.
he did it with Cleveland
He won't
too.
have that role on the Lakers at all.
The Lakers, you're forgetting who the coach of the Lakers is, and the goal is basically to turn the Lakers into a team that is a modern team that shoots 43s a game. You can say everything you want to do that's not going to happen, but you're going to be wrong.
Do you think Colin Sexton displaces Reeves to the shooting guard spot in the starting 5, or he comes off the bench?
No,
off the bench.
He comes off the bench.
So
that gives us some scoring off the bench.
Same role. His role completely changes. So that means all his starter stats for me kind of go out the window.
Yeah, but if he's a 6th man, he'll play starter minutes. So that shouldn't change that.
Maybe. I mean, Gabe Vincent doesn't play starter minutes. He plays 20-ish minutes a game.
Now, to wrap this up, I don't see it happening.
Oh, me either.
It's kind of like probably the best possible thing that could happen. I just don't see it.
Yeah, it's probably going to. What's your guess? Let's each make a guess as what you think the trade is going to be. One trade that you think is going to happen.
You haven't heard Michael's top center pick yet, and then we'll
go ahead, Michael.
Well, yeah. In that scenario, it would have been Kessler, but in the real world, I'm thinking
Jonas, huh?
No, I watched Jonas the other night again when the Washington. No, he's not going to. Honestly, the most realistic deal out there, because you don't have to stack a bunch of contracts to get would be what's his name with the Nets? Sean. Yeah, you could probably get him with seconds and a contract.
I tend to agree with that.
And he's somebody that you could put out there with AD from time to time. He'd give you more bulk than Hayes gives you. Could bang. I mean, there's centers I would rather have than him, but I always try to stay within the realistic world, not the trade machine world. And I think he's the most realistic get that's out there. I was really disappointed. This kind of gives you an idea of what the trade market is like. I was really disappointed when the Suns got Richards. He was like my number one guy. You look at all of the second round picks they got, and a Kogi, which he's a quality defensive wing.
Yeah, he's fine.
And it's like that's what this market is right now. The problem is that there's like a handful of guys out there, being shopped, and half the teams in the league looking for upgrades. So all of these sellers are holding on to the last second, seeing if people will panic.
Well, there's also the Jimmy trade that's holding everything up and clogging all of it.
That is the domino I think everybody is waiting to see fall, because that will tell us a lot about what is left.
Yeah.
And plus they might need several teams involved to make that trade. So all these other teams are holding back and saying, let's wait to see what we can get.
Exactly. This is listen. So I think that there's three things to consider when we're talking trades. One is that Detroit is going to probably be involved. If it's a team that's like, pushing into the luxury tax, you have to send salary somewhere where there's space. There's one team. It's Detroit. They have $14 million plus in cap space available, and they are doing really well this season. They are a potential. They're on the cusp of not even being a play-in team, like a straight playoff team in the East. If they, if things continue on an upward trajectory for them and a downward trajectory for Miami, if Philly can't pull itself out of this tailspin, there's a lot of teams you had penciled in there as a playoff play-in team that just aren't going to be in the playoffs or the play-in, I don't think. Depending on what the Miami Heat get for Jimmy Butler. I don't see them getting a player that just fits right into their culture and they take right back off and they're back to where you don't replace a guy like Jimmy Butler just accidentally. So I think that they're really going to have a hard time not retooling. They might have to go for a full rebuild this summer. I think they will wait for the summer to make that decision. My top point guard get is still Tyus Jones. I think we need a guy like Tyus Jones. I think if you want a point guard who's going to make your second unit better and make it possibly augment your first unit, it's a guy like Tyus Jones. I don't think he's available, but that's who I would be looking at. And my center, this is not going to make anybody happy, but I think the most gettable center who's also effectively cheap and not under salary for a long time is Andre Drummond. And he only makes $5 million. Philly is vastly over the salary cap. You could send them a trade exception, and he just goes away for them, and they're going to have to rebuild next summer. This is not working. I wouldn't be surprised if they move Embiid this summer. They won't do it.
Who would take him?
I think a few teams would be. I think you could look at Portland. Portland could put enough money together. Pelicans could trade Zion. There's a few options. There's a few places he could go.
Zion for Embiid trading.
He could go to Chicago. There's a few teams that have enough contracts that they could put into a deal and enough draft assets to make it worth Philly's time to just say we're giving up on this guy. The blood is bad. That's just not working. We can't rely on him.
And he can never stay healthy.
He can't stay healthy. You might as well go for upside with Zion at that point, right? I mean, you know what you get out of Embiid, and that would then finally signal the end of the process that everybody was so up in the air about for so long. That I was like, these guys haven't done anything. One of them can't shoot. he'll be out of the league next season.
That was the thing that was a head scratcher to me. They have Embiid with his injury history, and then they go and they
get PG.
What's that?
Get PG.
Yeah, they get PG, who has been hurt almost every playoffs in his.
Well, how about the Clippers? Do you remember? Look back at the Clippers trade. They traded this year's MVP.
Yep.
And 5 draft picks, I think.
Yeah. That will be a deal that reverberates. Yeah, and I remember Doc saying, like, it's not that we don't believe in SGA, it's just Paul helps us win now. Well, really, Doc.
Well, now disappeared from them.
Yeah, now never happened. And SGA is ascendant and going to be ascendant for several years to come. I mean, obviously, if you can get a guy like that, you make that, but whatever. We're not getting. I'm not saying tanking teams YYC. I would say a team that thinks that if you change the culture around him, Phoenix has it's weird. Training staffs in the NBA are mystifying to me. You go to Phoenix and suddenly your career is extended by 3 years.
Not only that, the general manager, James Jones at Phoenix, seems to find a way to keep making deals when nobody else in the league can make
no assets. He's got nothing left, and still he's like,
he's got nothing left. He turns his one pick left in the 3 picks.
How about a hobby horse and a balloon animal?
Guys.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of things in the NBA that always mystifying me. One is how a team like Shaq goes to Phoenix and suddenly plays like 70 games. Like weird things where I'm like, what? Is it just luck? Like, is it the water in Philly? Like, what?
It's the desert air.
New Jersey, and it's the end of the world. New Jersey trades them, and they're all doing great.
Then anyway, I think that there's a lot. There's the Jimmy bomb is what everybody's waiting for, and I think you're right, Tom. That makes it a lot of sense. In that, why would you?
Because it's going to take multiple teams to pull off that deal, and that's going to then add another bunch of people into the mix.
I'd like to say hi to Darren V, Adam Hurley, Blue Magic, YYC. You guys are killing it in the chat. Joe Soros popping in there every once in a while. I mean, Joe agrees with you, Tom. Of all the centers, I would say Walker Kessler has the best upside, but is probably the most unproven commodity. I understand that his numbers are okay on Utah. I always take somebody who's putting up decent numbers on a garbage team with a big grain of salt. And that goes for Sexton. Anybody, all the players on Utah, I'm like, there's no.
To be fair, Sexton did it on a good team as well when he was at Cleveland.
Sexton's probably the only one I would probably, we'll see. All right, people are starting to mention him in the chat, so I'll bring him up. Ronnie James is killing it in the G League, y'all.
I watched that game last night. He was great.
I've watched a couple of his G League games, and even if he doesn't score, he's doing the right things on both ends of the floor. He's not pushing.
He knows how to play the game, man.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, he's not pushing his stats. He's not trying to Scoot Henderson his way into a role, where you're like, I will do all this stuff. I'm going to make it look like I'm amazing. Oh, you're in the NBA. You're actually kind of mediocre.
A couple of things about the G League. I learned last night from watching the G League game. First of all, Quincy's still with the South Bay Lakers.
Yep.
They signed him to a G League contract, so
I was
he's still
very
there.
excited.
Supposedly promised him a possible two-way contract with the Lakers.
Probably, and then also, now this kind of makes things interesting when it comes to your too big thing, Tom. You know how the South Bay always mirrors what the Lakers are doing. They started two bigs. They started the two center, both of their two-way centers. They start. So that was interesting to me because that's what they always try to mirror what the big team is doing as far as their scheme.
They whether you want to play that every game, and most teams generally are not going to change their starting lineups to match up with opponents. They'll live with what they want to do best. But one of the things is we don't even have the two bigs in our repertoire simply because we don't have a guy to fill that second big's role. And that's a real frustrating part about it,
Yeah. No, I mean, the Lakers, we came into this season knowing the Lakers had a depth issue. We know that they had a size at the
Well, they went into last summer knowing that. They went into the trade deadline previous year knowing that.
I agree, but here we sit still.
Yeah. That's why the trade that's going to happen is going to be Vucevic and Lonzo.
I don't think we'll get both. I think we'll just get Vucevic.
That's $40 million in contracts. You're
going to gut the team and then have a guy who doesn't play. No, they're not getting ball. I understand your pipe dream, and it was a similar pipe dream you had when you were constructing Ben Simmons trades that I didn't understand a couple years ago as well. But that's fine. You're entitled to your opinion.
Ben Simmons down the road could be a Laker.
Yeah, at a minimum contract.
Yeah, I'd take a flyer on Ben Simmons.
We could give him we could give him part of the MLB.
Then you're literally throwing good money away. You're just taking good money and putting it up your butt and lighting a fart on fire.
Man, when you got a guy as big as him who can guard point guards the way he can guard point guards, there's a place on the right team for him. And the connection with Clutch will always be there.
He is done. Dun.
No, he's just going to adjust, just like Russell Westbrook adjusts. You put his salary into proper context.
There is no planet, there is no dimension where I put Ben Simmons on the same plane as Russell Westbrook. Russell Westbrook is a first ballot Hall of Famer. Ben Simmons is a first ballot nobody. And that's how it is.
And both of them on minimum contracts. Both of them on minimum contracts. Very few teams would turn down an opportunity to have them.
I said of that minimum contract. I did not say $5 to $8 million. That's what you're starting.
I could give him $5 to $8 million.
I know you could.
His defense is worth that.
It is not.
Getting back to the trade deadline,
sure.
I don't think anything's going to happen until the day before. I mean, because I think everybody's. You look at a guy like Cam Johnson. He's having a career year on a bad team.
Yeah.
He normally is, a 13 to 14 point a game guy. They want 2 first rounds for him. He is not worth 2 first rounds, but they're going to hold out until the very end to see if anybody's desperate enough to do that. But they'll trade him for 1, but it won't be until the last second. So I got to, even without Jimmy, I think everybody's holding on to their assets to see who gets desperate and what we can get. And then they'll start getting serious in the day or two before the deadline.
I mean when I say they have no need to trade him. He's under contract for around $20 million for the next 3 seasons. For his level of production, that is beyond reasonable.
Oh, yeah.
You don't just throw that contract away, almost regardless of the player's potential. Even if he stops exactly where he's at, that is
I think they do it because they want to lose more. That's their whole goal right now. They just want, and he's going to be 29, so he's not going to be part of the rebuild. So they want to lose as many games as they can lose, basically.
Did they build a statue for him yet?
What's that?
Does he have a statue yet?
Cam Johnson?
No, I was talking about Jimmy. Does he have a statue in Miami? Didn't
No.
they build one for him?
You know, and the thing that bothers me is like, I wouldn't trade for Jim. I don't want a guy with that attitude on my team.
Yeah, I know.
I mean,
What he's doing to the team that he's on now is what he's going to do to your team.
exactly. You know,
well, he's on record as saying, for whatever this is worth, he's on record because he also said that Miami was the perfect place, and I can imagine retiring here, and blah 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 blah, until he didn't get his max deal for playing, 2/3 of the season for the last 3 years. And I think, I will say that Pat Riley did not handle this as well as he probably could have. I think Michael and I
he probably got tired of Jimmy. He got tired of Jimmy real quick.
Maybe. Yeah, I think that's probably what happens in a lot of places. I think that once you wear out your welcome, and it looks like they've bent the culture for what it's worth to acquiesce to some of his demands. It's funny. I was reading an article on ESPN about LeBron James's fixer, his the guy who helps keep it all together, and it was funny. Of all, he's got a job at every single team he's ever worked that LeBron's ever been on, except Miami. Miami said, no, we don't do that for players. We just don't do that. And it's one of those things where you're like, wow, I admire Miami for like building something that, for lack of a better word, a team culture that they're like all in on, right? And it's worked. They've won more titles doing it than their way than a lot of teams.
They created stability with quality leadership.
Yeah, and accountability, and saying like, the lowest paid youngest player is worth the same amount to us as the most. You're both on the same level within the team structure. We're going to treat you both the same. That encourages a lot of self-growth and self-sacrifice.
Yeah, they do a good marketing job too.
They win more than their talent levels would suggest. That's
consistently.
But that's probably due to their coach more than anything else.
Well, I think it's their system, it's their culture, And
I think what we're seeing this season is what happens when Udonis Haslem isn't part of your team.
When Jimmy Butler takes over as your culture.
Yeah, I think that that some of their older guys really kept everything in line, like helped keep.
He shouldn't have charged his guys at $30 for the coffee in his.
The coffee. Hey man, if you can make the money, if the demand's there. That's America, baby. That's America.
They're your teammates. They're stuck there.
Isn't that how healthcare works?
For a good coffee, and you're charging them $30.
Anyway, Adam Hurley says Butler would get us to the finals and fall to pieces. I don't think I don't think there's a role. I don't think the Lakers don't need another ball dominant player. We don't need another guy who needs the ball in his hands. We got Reeves. We got LeBron. Gabe is at his best when he's got the ball in his hands and like moving off of the pick and roll, pick and pop, that sort of thing. We don't need another guy who needs the ball in his hands. We proved that with Russell Westbrook, and it wasn't so much a salary.
That had nothing to do with Russell Westbrook. You don't have the wrong guy. The wrong guy with the ball in his hands is a disaster anywhere.
Well, not in Denver. He's not, but
well, that's in Denver's not. If he played as well as he played in Denver, if he played as well for us as he's playing in Denver now, he might still be here.
He might. And there's validity in that.
Yeah, but he's been taking down a few pegs that make him a lot more amenable right now.
Well, I think that I also think that he and Jokic have a really great synergy. I don't know if you've watched the two of them play a lot. They play off of each other a lot.
Yeah.
In a way that I always thought LeBron and AD should play off of one another more, or even Russ and AD. But they all tend to just do their thing a little bit on the Lakers, still to this day. Point being,
it's usually them passing the ball to the center. It's not usually the center passing the ball.
We don't need an aging guy who needs the ball in his hand, and that is what Jimmy Butler is. I love Jimmy Buckets. He's one of my favorite players. I love his grit. I love that he's got I don't care what you think about me attitude. Those are all things I respect and enjoy in a player. I do not think he is the right fit on the Lakers at any point.
On another team's player.
Yeah, sure. He can do all that. He will do that on another team at some point. It's just a question of which one. I think that the most likely trade candidate for the Lakers is Vucevic. I think that because Chicago, there's no place for him in Chicago. I believe he's under contract next season. I'm going to double check that right now.
Yeah, he's shooting 41% on 5 threes a game.
His
offensive game is still he is a load to handle down low in the post.
No,
man.
he's a load to handle. He's under contract for $21 million next season.
And
so,
and defensively, he still is. He's not easy to move.
No, he's foundation. He's got a solid foundation. I think these are the three reasons I think Vucevic makes the most sense. And I'm not including Lonzo Ball in my trade. There's no way the Lakers are getting Lonzo Ball this season. If they get Lonzo Ball, it'll be because they signed him to the mini MLE this summer, because that's all he's worth at this point. He can't play more than 24 minutes a game. He will never play in back-to-backs again.
We know
his knee could explode at any second, and he's gone. So there's no reason to trade draft picks for this guy at all. It just makes zero sense.
When he makes the All-Star team 2 years from now, you'll change it to him.
That's not going to happen on 24 minutes a game. Sorry, Tom. You don't make the All-Star team on a minutes restriction. It just doesn't happen. And I don't think he ever gets out from under that minute. I don't think if he wants to walk like a normal person in his 50s and 60s, that he's going to come off that minutes.
I don't know. I would even take those 2 second-round picks, and I'd trade it for Herb Jones if they do it.
Herb Jones is out till April. You still want to do it?
Sure, I'd do it
the
whole year. He's that good of a defender, man.
Well, we're trying to win now, Tom.
Well, I'm trying to win every year, Michael. That's a little different.
Okay, I don't know how that works.
Well, I wouldn't trade a bunch of guys just to get another championship and then screw the team for 5 years. Nobody. That's stupid. I want to win every year.
I would give up a first rounder for Vucevic. I would give up 1 first rounder and a second rounder for Vucevic if they agreed to take Christian Wood. No, if they agreed to take Christian Wood and Rui Hachimura, because that makes sense. The money works.
Lakers don't want to trade Rui.
Well, then they're not going to make a trade.
I think they really want to trade him. DFS to take his spot.
He's the second best plus minus on the team for a reason.
It's the only reason he's a valuable trade chip, because he's still got 2 years left on that deal. And that's something that you then look at for Chicago. You look at that and you think, okay, we're going to give some of these core guys a couple of years, right? That fits in with the timeline for a lot of the guys they have on the roster right now. That means you're keeping Kobe White, means you're keeping Patrick Williams, you're keeping a lot of the guys.
Kobe White might be on the trade block, by the way.
Patrick Williams was put on the trade block also.
Well, everybody in Detroit, everybody in Chicago is on the trade block. Yeah, They never go anywhere. So, except Caruso, was the only one I ever wanted for reals. The only one I wanted back. He went to OKC because
they ruined a lot of good trades that I had in mind when Caruso was gone. It's always nice to be able to say, let's trade with those guys and we'll get Alex back, That's the thing. So anyway, got over to Lonzo now, we're gonna get Lonzo back.
No, we're not. I mean, maybe this summer. Maybe. To be honest, I think he's to be retired as a Bull because they stood by him, and I think that he's got some amount of loyalty. He's still
got enough left.
I think if anybody gets him, guys, I think it's going to be probably the Warriors, because they have a younger guy. They can throw what's his name in there, Kuminga, and a first rounder.
The Bulls don't really care if they bring back an injured player because they know they're not doing anything.
Yeah, plus, he's only going to be out another week or two. I mean, it's not like he had a season-ending injury, But he's 22 years old with a lot of upside, and they're willing to move him. And they need they've needed a center for years,
and they want one that shoots a three.
They
want Vooch,
and that lets them move. That lets them do the same thing we want to do, which is move Draymond back to the 4. Because they're not getting much out of Looney this season, unfortunately.
Yeah, so I really think that I got a feeling that they're going to get him. I just because they can throw a young guy in there,
Boston beat Boston with Rui balling and D'Lo passing times last year. Jeremy, you forgot that Vando had a triple-double in that game as well. That was the last game of the season he played.
Oh, by the way, Vando might end up playing more than anticipated tonight because both LeBron and Rui are questionable.
I know. I saw that.
So who's out for the Warriors? Who's out for the Warriors?
I don't know. There's like 8 questionable players on both teams, so it's just like, all right, we'll see in like an hour. I think they have to release
for us to get over 6 games above 500. Man, that's getting tiring.
I'd like to see it's like 10 games over 500, but let's start with 6. Let's start with 6. So let's move
We're
on
at
to that.
6 now. We want to go to 7.
Yeah,
I think this first part of this road trip is really, really important.
Yeah,
because it's going to be 6 games in 10 days, and the last 2 games we get on the road trip are the Knicks and the Clippers. And we're going to be tired. We need to win some games before those two.
We need to win now, win early.
And we may not have certain guys in the lineup during those 6 games.
There's a few things. So we're 24-18. We're 6 games over 500. That's 42 games in the docket. We lost a couple of games because of the fires.
We're 2 games out of the head of the play-in.
2 games out of
losses ahead of the play-in.
3 games, I think, back of 4.
No, we're
3 games back of 4 behind Denver. And so,
what? I always look at the loss column as opposed to because we're 2 games out of the 4 loss column. That's more important because you can always win future games, but you can't do anything about the games you lost.
You can't unlose games? Oh man.
I'm not sure I follow that logic, but you do you, baby. You do you. I'm not gonna I can only look at the total win-loss record, which is 24-18. And so yes, I see what you mean. We're not gonna make that 18.
I always look at the loss tells you where the tiers are on the league right there.
Sure. I actually look at the different point differential more than anything else.
I think everybody that's 7 through 10, they've got 18 losses or 21 losses.
5 through 25 through basically to New Orleans has between 20 and 28 losses. So, I mean, incredibly, there's only 7 games that separate the Portland Trailblazers from the Dallas Mavericks. Right. Only 6 games that separate the Portland Trailblazers from the Phoenix Suns, who have the last.
Yeah, but you got to count how many teams are in between that, because that changes that whole logic of 6 games. I can cruise my way up there.
But so that's what I'm saying.
So you got to go through so many teams to get there that it's
so. But if you look at the point differential on the teams not in the play-in spot, only Golden State has a plus point differential. And the teams in the playoff outside of the play-in spot, I mean, in the play-in spot, Phoenix is the only team with a negative point differential. Every other team has a plus point differential. And for the teams in the playoff spot, we're the only team with a negative point differential. Every other team has a better point differential than us. And if you're not sure what that means, it means the number of points you score versus the number of points you give up and how those numbers balance out. We still give up
that many more per game than you've scored.
We're still giving up more points than we score consistently.
It's all those big 30
the thing about it is that when we lose big.
We tend
when
to lose.
We win, we don't win as big.
This is a good point. We tend to
lose big and look bad.
We have had some real stinkers. So Gabe and Cam do not turn the ball over. That's Darren, I don't think they're going to put Rui on the bench. I think if any player goes to the bench,
they're not going to put Rui on the bench because they're going to trade him, and you're not
trading him. They're not going to trade him.
Damage his value by putting him on the bench.
They're not going to trade him.
I mean, who knows?
He's the first guy that's going.
I don't have a crystal ball.
My prediction would be plus Hood Shafino make the deal, man. They'll get you who you want. You want Boots? Those are the 2 guys who will do it.
Let's look at the list of teams that even would consider Jalen Hood-Schifino acceptable contract fodder. Oh wait, it's 0. No, that's not true because they can win. He's valuable.
It's the 2 second-round picks that you're going to send to get Boots. That's why
they're not going to get him for second-round pick. They're not going to get him for second-rounders.
He's on contract next season, and he's an expiring contract next season. They can get more next season, and they'll just hold on to him.
2 second-rounders. Jamie, you're going against it. You already said Boots is the trade they're going to make, and now you're telling them
for a first and a second. That was it. First and a second.
Yeah, they're not going to get
first and a second. I'm not sitting there like 2 second-rounders. That's it. That's the deal.
The problem with our second picks.
In the first court, they probably get Lonzo too.
Yeah, here's the deal with second picks. Yeah, people are. Oh yeah, we'll give them the second picks. Our second picks are going to fall between. We have 2, ours and the Clippers. They're going to fall between 45 and 52, 53. Wow, I want those picks.
I want those picks like they're going out of style.
That's if somebody has a 38th pick in the draft, a team would take that over R2, just simply because that might be worth something. R2s are guys that never make the team or make, I mean,
I don't know when you look at the percentages that they predict for getting an all-star player, what stands out is that once you get out of the lottery, everybody has a chance of getting an all-star player. The second half of the lottery and the second round are all about the same.
Not at 45 or 50. No, they're not. I mean,
why do you think
low 30s are almost
first round pick and take 2 seconds for it? Because the first round pick falls into the second half of the first round, and the second round picks, 2 second round picks are worth more, even if they're
not at the end of not
in
just like first round picks. A lottery pick is worth more than a 28th.
Yeah,
and the same thing works with the second round. High second round pick.
Once you get past 17, the stats tell you that the rest of the picks are pretty much you have.
Why don't you post a list of guys that have been taken at 50, Tom, that have really made it in the league?
I'm still on that.
There's an amazing. The stats are pretty clear that.
I can't think of anybody.
In the second round, you almost have just as much chance as.
I can't think of anybody at 50 that's made it big in the league.
I'll write that down and I'll find you a guy that's made it.
Okay.
Jordan Clarkson comes close. Reeves and Caruso.
No, Clarkson was in the high 30s.
No, he was the 44th pick in the draft.
He was? He went that low?
I think he went that low. I'm going to double check.
There's an amazing table, and I'll send it to you, Michael, that shows you the percentage chance that you have of drafting an all-star player at this draft plot. And it's amazing because the numbers are heavily in the first 14 players, first 17 players. After that,
I'm just thinking that I don't hear a lot of success stories.
You might have a little better chance at 28 than you might at 39, than you might at 49, but not much. No. The difference is almost.
Jokic was 41. Yeah, but Jokic transformed himself. That's the complete outlier. I don't think he was the 41st pick. I think he was
31's almost a first round pick. I think Zoo was
29 is almost a second round pick.
Yeah, almost.
That's true. Let's see. Oh yeah, Jokic was the 41st pick in the draft. Look at that. That's depressing. Anyhow. All right, let's wrap it up. It's a little bit after 1. There's a game tonight.
That means every team in the league, and probably 11 of them, had 2 shots at him and passed.
Jokic was picked during a Taco Bell commercial. I remember that, Kurt. That's one of my favorite stories about him because then he came in like he'd been eating a Taco Bell his entire life. And he's done a great job at transforming his body and changing his diet. And you've got to give the guy credit for that. None of those are easy things to do. Gabe has the same defensive rating as Austin, worst on the team. I don't know if it's fair, but I understand your point. Listen, let's move on. Let's talk
about this game too. Is that picking on Max prevented them from picking on Austin, which is what they should have been doing with Jaylen Brown.
Yeah, Jaylen Brown and Tatum both had really off games. I thought they both sort of looked like. And Drew Holiday is obviously coming back from that shoulder injury still. Yeah,
he's not.
I'm going to give LeBron and Rui credit though too, because they stuck to those guys.
Everybody on the team played really great defense, man.
That's what I mean. That we won that game with defense. Boston didn't score 30 in any quarter. That's how that's to be true. All right, predictions for tonight. What do we got, Michael? You first. And then,
gosh, it depends. If we're missing LeBron and Rui, it's going to be tough. And the problem with picking a Warriors game is it doesn't matter what the records are ever, because they're always tough games. I mean, even when we were really terrible back in the day, we gave the Warriors a tough time, and they've done the same with us even when they were terrible.
I just hope they don't hurt any of our players tonight.
But
Draymond playing.
But the thing about it is I'm going to give it to the Lakers because
50-50 chance.
Because AD is just somebody that they're not equipped to deal with, So I got to give it to the Lakers. Hopefully, either Rui or LeBron is available, one of them. But even with that out, it's going to be harder, but I'll still give it to the Lakers.
Tom?
I think what's really important about this game is that the Lakers come out and play exactly the same way they played against the Celtics.
I would love for them to play that way.
Consistency is our major problem, man. Consistency is our problem from game to game and from quarter to quarter. We need to come out, and every single player who plays, whoever plays, we need to come out and dominate the game steadily and sharply, just like we did last time.
I love that. That's my favorite prediction maybe that you've ever made. Top 5 anyway, top 5, because it's achievable. You know, it comes down to effort and focus. Those are very achievable things.
You did it once, now you can do it twice.
That's right. That's right. You showed me you can do it. You better do it all the time. You don't just get to slack off from here on out because you did it once. And too often, I think we slack off after doing something great. I think that this is going to be a tough road trip. I absolutely think the Lakers need to win this game. I think this might be one of the more winnable games of the road trip because Golden State really is in kind of a semi-free fall since that epic start they had. They had a great hot start to the season and then have just really fallen off a cliff. And so you really have to push that and force them to adjust to you. And they're going to have a hard time with LeBron anyway. There's nobody who can really guard LeBron or AD if Looney's not playing. So I'm thinking the Lakers win tonight. I think it's close. I think Steph has a good game. I'm really excited to see Vando back. I hope he's healthy for the rest of the season.
One thing about Steph, he has a lot of off games against us.
He does. But
and if Vando guards him well, that could be fun for a few minutes.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting to see how much they play Vando. I think he's only going to probably play like 15 minutes or so.
No injuries tonight. No injuries tonight, man.
Yeah,
that's it.
We don't need those.
Every game, no injuries. That's the deal.
And to win.
Well, yeah.
Our injuries with a loss, it depends who gets injured.
Healthy wins, right? Yeah. Healthy wins.
Healthy wins. I like that. That's a good statement.
All right, you guys. It's let's call it out here. So for Michael H. and Laker Tom, I'm Jamie Sweet. I'd like to thank everybody who participated in the chat. Like and subscribe. Give our podcast a 5-star rating if you still do participate in things like that. I'm excited for the game tonight. Let's go, Lakers.
It's an early game.
Huh?
I like the road games because they're early.
All right. I watch them all on tape anyway because I got a kid to wrangle. So I just try not to find out the result until the game's over, or until I watch the game.
You get the result first and then watch the game.
No, I just try to watch the game
without knowing.
I try not to know. I try not to know what the outcome is before I watch.
I actually used to believe that, and I still do to a certain extent, that I can change the result if I don't know it yet. At least in my universe.
Yeah, there's other things I wish you would use that power on, Tom. There's other results I wish you would alter. But all right.
Yeah, I do too, Jamie. But
this kid of mine's losing her mind, so I'm gonna sign off. I'm sure you can hear her singing and capering about in the background. And Gerald, that's what you get. All right.
So Lakers.
That's right.
Go Lakers. 3 in a row tonight.
There we go. 7 over 500.
Yep.
Aloha.
Aloha.